What's a notorious movie plot gap that you've grown weary of clarifying? The exhaust port in the Death Star wasn't a glaring weakness. It was genius engineering, and Disney was dumb for saying it was purposely built in as a weakness. A power source capable of running that entire station would generate incomprehensibly huge amounts of heat and waste. To have it all effectively vented through one exhaust port is an incredible feat, not a glaring weakness. Besides, exhaust ports are designed to push things out, not suck them in. They would have had no reason to think explosives would ever be able to make it all the way through. The capabilities of the lander in Interstellar. It needed to be on top of a 3-stage rocket to leave Earth. Later on, it visited multiple planets and returned, all on its own. It went so deep into a gravity well that the guy left behind aged years while they were away. Again, it went into and out of this gravity well all on its own. The capabilities that lander had essentially demonstrated what they needed to fix the problems in the end of the movie. What the character inside the black hole telegraphed out to his daughter. Good fellas. Billy Bats just got out of prison. Jimmy took over his part of the business and grew it exponentially. Ran it better than Billy ever did. Billy gets released and expects to just carry on where he left off. Of course, a made man ain't gonna work for Conway, so insults his right-hand man Tommy in an incredible way in Henry's bar. Conway joins in and helps beat the guy to death. Mob never came after Conway. They whacked Tommy because he whacked Jareth and Bats, both friends of John Gotti's. Jack and Rose could totally both have fit on that door. First off, it was a broken bit of wall, not as buoyant as a door. Secondly, he tries to climb on and it goes underwater. They literally showed us that he can't do it. The actual movie prop or some shit. For the purposes of the movie, Jack tried to climb onto the door and realized that doing so would risk Rose freezing to death. So he chose to stay in the water. In The Fifth Element, the Mondachaiwans have been authorized to return to Earth to bring the weapon to defeat evil. But the Mangalores attack the ship. They take a hand holding a chest of stones and rebuild this being. This being was holding a chest. So not the Fifth Element, whom has been shown to have their OWN sarcophagus. HOW is this the Fifth Element? Are all Mondachaiwans fifth elements? If so, why all the humbug about the specific supreme being? Generally speaking, the ones that are explicitly clarified in the film itself already. Too often am I enjoying my fandom in a thread on Reddit only to find some muff breather complaining about the plot gap that had a whole scene and several lines of dialogue explaining. It used to leave me wondering where people's minds are going when they are watching movies or series. Nowadays, just assume they were fucking around on their phones. In Django Unchained, why didn't Dr. i.e. he was a German-speaking gentleman who would obviously want a German-speaking slave to act as his servant, since many people didn't speak the language, so he could have also used her in his business. Candy wasn't interested in selling house servants. He only deals on high-price fighters, and the deal would have fallen through if Schultz only wanted a house servant. Regarding Signs 2002, people complain about aliens invading a planet full of water which kills them. It could have been that the aliens we see on Earth are drones with very little worth, like worker bees or ants, worth less than the materials to make a protective suit. And if a lot of them die while do whatever they were doing on Earth, which was never clearly defined, it didn't matter. In the beginning of Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley is undercover as a hijacker selling a truckload of stamped cigarettes to defenses. It goes awry when the police interrupt things, which leads to a chase through Detroit. Why does one of the fences drive the truck when Axel is the one who hijacked it? Is he selling them the cigarettes and the truck for only $5,000? Sure, they could both fit on the door, just not without the door sinking. Maneuvering both of them on the door without it flipping one or both of them back into the water would have been a miracle. And that's without both of them already been freezing and exhausted. And then it would have kept sort of afloat, but deep enough that both of them would have frozen to death anyway. Old school, At the party in the beginning, Frank describes how tomorrow is going to be a nice little Saturday with so many errands that he doesn't know if he'll have time for them all. The next morning, Mitch wakes up with his one-night stand who has to go to school, and the same day Mitch meets her dad at work. Somehow we time warp from Friday night to Monday morning. Making on Neo's responses. Most of the scenes are incorrect in those predictions, except for when Neo must choose between Trinity and all of humanity. The machines nailed that response on all screens. At the end of Spirited Away, when Chihiro leaves, and the building is all overgrown with weeds, a lot of people are saying, oh, she was at the bathhouse for years. But the car started up okay, and the tires weren't flat or anything. It's all overgrown and grassy because it isn't magic anymore. So it's just a crappy old building. I don't know how notorious it is, but it's glaring to anybody who knows how opiate overdoses work. Why accidentally killed with an opiate overdose in the beginning of Knives Out could have easily been kept alive through rescue breathing, and the nurse who accidentally killed him would have known that. Born in Easter, Cheech could have simply walked right back to US port of entry at the Tijuana-San Diego border and stated his social security number to the immigration agent. After the required investigation by the border agents, they would have let him walk right back into the US. In The Terminator, Skynet sends Arnold back to kill Sarah Connor, as she will be the mother of the rebel leader who will stop Signet. Then the rebels send back a guy to protect her, and he then goes on to impregnate her with the rebel leader. So Skynet caused it all. C-Day. They were able to hack into an alien spaceship using Windows because Jeff Goldblum had been monitoring and working with the alien transmissions from space for quite some time before the movie. That explanation was cut from the film. The aliens in Signs 2000 who are invading a planet where water is so plentiful it covers 70 of its surface and falls from the sky aren't idiots. In fact, they aren't aliens at all. They're demons. They are Mel Gibson's nihilism made manifest. There is no one in the room with him. So who reports that Kane's last whispered word is Rosebud? The nurse enters because she hears the snow globe drop. It is a film filled with unreliable narrators, but this moment just doesn't have one. The T-Rex in Jurassic Park doesn't knock the car through the same hole it emerges from. The T-Rex paddock has a natural cliff on one side which is utilized as a natural enclosure for the Rex, and the car is knocked down that instead. In The Warriors, there was no need for the gang to risk getting killed by rivals while they took the subway back to Coney Island from the Bronx. They could have just taken a couple of taxis back. If the alien's blood itself responds violently to being touched by a hot wire, how did Macready manage to draw blood from the infected guy to do it? Didn't he stab him in the arm to get it? If you'll actually watch Sword Art Online instead of getting your opinions from YouTube critics, you'd know that Kaiba does, in fact, explain his motivations. In the Titanic scene, they show Leo trying to get on the door raft with her, and they both start to sing, so Leo gets off. Gandalf was work friends with the Eagles. They went, "Hey man, can you give me a ride to the airport, friends?" Green Goblin wants to know who takes photos of Spider-Man when the photos literally say Peter Parker in the Bugle. Batman took the blame at the end of The Dark Knight to get people to stop role-playing as him in the streets. In The Batman, why can't bad guys aim properly? They all miss him, and he was just right in front of them. Sean Connery didn't do a Russian accent in The Hunt for Red October because he wasn't playing a Russian. Why does Ross, the largest friend, not simply the other friends? Obviously he's just not hungry. Not a film. But Lost has surprisingly few plot holes given how much people complain about it. Not so much a plot hole, but trying to figure out the timeline in Steel Magnolias. The Eagles are servants of man. They aren't just an Uber service for Gandalf. Why didn't they just drop nukes on the Bugs planet in Starship Troopers? Apparently some people still think the top was Dom's totem in Inception.